Hi there, welcome to another Ed webinar. I'm Adam, I'm one of the content designers here at Ed. In today's webinar, we're just going to be looking at applying gamification to Ed and how to use gamification in your lessons. So we've got just a demo lesson here in which we take the role of an electronics retailer who's training their employees on selling the MacBook in store. So it's very basic. It's got the usual setup. And before we start, I'm just going to point out that I'm going to assume you have a little knowledge of how to use the authoring tool. But even if you don't, you will see the tool in action. And if you have any questions, please just post them up. I'll be more than happy to answer. And perhaps I can cover some things off at the end that you thought maybe I went too fast on or you weren't quite familiar with when I was going over them. And again, I'll be more than happy to answer anything you have. So again, in this example, we're just coming back to that. We've got a standard lesson where we introduce the topic of the lesson. We then go on to do some knowledge transfer in a video template. And we have two quick interactive templates that reinforce the key messages covered in the video that we want our learners to remember. So there are, of course, some automatic gamification features within Ed. For example, the achievements that fire off when learners complete lessons, when they spend stars, when they complete courses. All of these are automatic. So the good news is, well, we've done configuring achievements because, hey, there's nothing for you to do. They just work. But something else that you can actually do, something more involved for you to take part in, is adding stars to your lesson. So stars in Ed, apart from being a currency to use in the star bar if you choose to deploy them, are great because they reward your learners when they answer a question correctly. So basically, any interactive template like the ones you see here, when a learner is asked to answer a question or play a game, if a learner answers the question correctly and we've configured the template to reward them with stars in that case, then they're awarded those stars. So in fact, I'll just show you how it looks to a learner when we configure it. So to add stars to a template, we scroll down to the bottom. We've already configured this one, but I'll actually have a look at configuring a template from start to finish in a moment. And you can see down here, right at the bottom, we've got the star reward area. And here we can type in exactly how many stars we would like to give the learner for answering this question. So let's say here we want to give them 1 star if they answer this one correctly. And you can see that in the top right of the content preview window, we see that 1 star available pop up. And that means that if the learner answers correctly, which I will attempt to do now, and I didn't, but it pops up here and it gives them the reward. It shows them, okay, you've earned 1 star. And actually in the app, it has a really nice animation that says, hey, here's your star. And also at the end of the lesson, when they're coming out of the lesson, you see all the stars they've earned in the lesson count up. And it is a great way to gamify your content because obviously the definition of gamification is adding in these game-like qualities to the learning, to the micro lesson, to bring in and engage learners more. So seeing that score add up at the end when they see how many stars they've earned this time and how many more are available to them, and seeing it pop up every time when they get their question correct, it's immediate positive reinforcement. It's them saying, okay, nice one, you paid attention, now here's your reward, and go spend it on the chance to win a prize, again, if you're choosing to deploy that. So this is the how, really. You simply do enter your star reward at the bottom of every interactive template. So again, just moving back here, we've got a missing word template, and scroll down to the bottom and it's right there. Every interactive template. So I'm just going to open up the template library to reiterate which these are. So basically every template but the content template, because of course these content templates, learners aren't asked to answer a question. Now, that doesn't mean they don't interact, even though we call the others interactive templates. So here, they interact to try and get a feel for what's on offer. There's still some interest in there. But again, they're not answering a question. In these content templates, the learners are all about discovering some information, whereas in these interactive templates, like the game templates, the multiple choice, number, relationship, and concept templates, all of these have the configurable star reward amount. And again, we've covered the why because it really engages the learner, especially when they see here on a question, okay, there's some stars available. It means, they really want to pay attention to this one because they're obviously going to get a reward. And what it actually means as well is it will encourage them, if they don't get the question correct, what it'll do is it'll make them want to repeat that lesson, especially if you're deploying prizing. If they see on this question here, there's 3 stars available and they get it wrong, it's going to make them come back into the lesson and try and repeat it again because they want those extra 3 chances to win the prize. And that actually brings me on to my next point of how you decide to weight stars in a lesson, because we've obviously covered that stars are important and they're an easy way to gamify your content and you can customize them per template. But with that customization per template becomes the question, how should I assign these stars? Why would I give this question 3 stars and this one 1? What rule should I follow? So the first thing you need to think about is how many stars you want to give out per lesson, per question. And as a very approximate rule, I tend to supply this rule to newcomers to the tool or to people who aren't familiar with assigning stars. I like to give a guide and say, so count up how many interactive templates you have in the lesson. Here we've got 2. And I'll say times it by 2, and that's how many stars you should give out in the lesson. So we want to give out 4 stars in this configuration of the lesson. And we don't necessarily have to assign 2 per question. You can if you want. Perhaps you're in a hurry and you just want to get those stars out there, you can do that. But what I like to do is assign stars by difficulty sometimes. Actually, I'll talk about my method, but this is certainly something that people do. Say here, we've got a question where there's it's a little bit more difficulty. There's 3 potential answers, 3 potential ways to answer the question. We give out 3 stars because it's a slightly harder question. Whereas here in the missing word template, there's only 1 option, and we'd like to think that we've educated quite well on this concept in the previous questions. So we don't expect the learners to get it wrong. It's not so difficult. We're going to give them slightly less reward than the one they have to work a little bit harder on. So that's assigning stars by scaling them with difficulty, scaling the number of stars rewarded with the difficulty of the question. Another way to scale the stars rewarded is to say you wanted to scale it with the value of the knowledge to you. So as I mentioned previously, in a question where a learner sees a lot of stars available, if they get that question wrong, they're going to be highly encouraged to come back and repeat that question. So in the concepts that you particularly want to have the learner reinforce, perhaps there's a key competency that you really want your learner to have top of mind, to have absolutely correct, a particular sales skill or some kind of compliance that they absolutely must know. If you give that question 3 or 4 stars for the reward, that learner is coming back to do that slide because they want those stars. So what you can guarantee is that without putting the learner in an environment and saying, look, you get this question right, or else, say in a test environment where you have to pass all these questions, you're saying, look, if you get this question right, you get 4 stars. Now I'll let you decide what to do. There's 4 stars there. You want to do it. So that's really scaling the star reward with the value of the knowledge. So here, again, maybe this information might be useful when selling to certain customers who are very detail oriented, but most customers in this scenario, again, coming back to our retail sales scenario, most of our customers are more interested in knowing that their laptop, when it's on the go, will last them for 9 hours, as it is in this example. So after that little bit of theory, I'm just going to add a timed multiple choice template to show you how to add another game-like quality to the lesson in the form of a timer. So just to reiterate everything we've gone over there, we looked at why stars were important in a lesson, to increase engagement and to reward learners and encourage them to repeat the lesson and to answer correctly. And you should. We looked at how many stars you should reward in a lesson, typically the number of content templates times 2, and the different methods you might use to assign stars to questions, either based on the difficulty of the question or based on the importance of the question to you, the importance of the knowledge contained within. So to add a timed interactive template, we're going to go to the multiple choice tab here. And we're looking to add the timer to a number of other templates in a future update. So keep your eyes on the Ed blog because that will be coming out very soon. But for now, we've got it on the multiple choice template here. So just like in a game template, you scroll down to the bottom here, and above the star reward area, you can set the time limit down to the millisecond. And what I like to do is set the timer to around 10 seconds. And as you can see here, when the learner arrives on the slide, they get presented with a countdown and they can't see the answers yet. and then they get a go and the timer starts reading down. So again, this is a nice way to add a little bit of fun and a little bit of game to your lesson. And again, it makes them nice and engaged. They've got to pay attention at this second because the question's timing down. You've got to really think and be in the moment. Whereas in these questions, we're not looking to particularly test or challenge the learners. We're just looking to reinforce those key concepts that we covered in an interactive question and answer based format rather than just telling them, because that's a great way to reinforce these learners' concepts. But when we move on to this time multiple choice question, it's a bit of a fun challenge at the end of the lesson to keep them on their toes and to get them really engaged and involved. So regarding using the timer, I like to include one timed template per lesson, and I might what I tend to do is say every time template is worth 3 stars. Again, this is me when I'm scaling the star reward with the difficulty of the question, because then the learner learns that in every lesson there's going to be a timed question worth a lot of stars, so they want to be ready for that. When they're going through, they're always waiting. Is it at the start? Is it at the end? And they're always got to be prepared for that timer to come in, and it really it gets them focused in on the lesson. It gets them paying attention, because if they're not paying attention, then they miss out, and that's on them. It's also a great thing if you want to do in a test lesson, for example, or in a review lesson. What you can do is have an entire lesson made up of timed questions, and it's kind of like I call it a boss lesson. It's a challenge lesson. It's not the typical learn something, go through question and answer. It's like something you would do at the end of the week when you're reviewing everything that your learners have gone through each day of the week. You say, okay, each question is timed. We're going to challenge our learners. We're going to give them only 10 seconds per question, and they've got to keep going and going and going and getting those questions correct if they want those stars. So that's a sort of game-like way to approach it. And similarly, I like to include these time style questions in lessons where I can't or haven't included a game template, particularly if it's been 2 or 3 lessons and I haven't put a game in there, because learners enjoy our game templates, and it's nice to have a mini game, if you will. It's not the standard game where we've got a timer and a unique interaction style, and it's a standard question, but we apply that timer just to give it a nice gamify it, I suppose, is the word to use, to make it nice and fun and like our game templates. As I say, when we can't use the games. So talking about games, I'll open this up and add in one of the games down here. So I've talked about it in the past, and the go-to game template that I recommend for newcomers to the platform is the True or False template down here. So you go to the game tab in the template library and just scroll down and add the True or False. And it's really the most versatile template. It's the easiest to configure. I really recommend using it, and obviously it's also great for teaching learners. I'm going to talk about some of the theory of the games, and then look at actually how to configure the game. So when should you use games in lessons? So game templates are great for getting learners over the final stage of remembering a concept. So we've gone through a lesson, we've introduced them to the topic, we've given them the bulk knowledge on the topic, whether that's through text or through video, as in this case, and then we've reinforced the key messages of the video. So in any cases where the learners, perhaps they haven't quite got the concept there in their heads, or they just need a little bit of reinforcement to try and remind them and correct any or clarify any information, we've done that in our interactive templates. And now what we want to do is fully encode that information in their long-term memory, transfer it from the short-term into the long-term. And we do that using game templates, because all of Ed's game templates are designed to encourage repeated play, to get the learners to go over and over it. And you will see in the analytics, often learners will play 2 or 3 times to try and get the highest score or to get every available star. So what we encourage is to put game templates at the end of lessons. You want to consider that game templates are typically interactive for a longer time than interactive templates or content templates because of that repeated play. So Perhaps if you've got a long lesson, reaching 10, 11 slides, obviously you've got to keep in mind that you want your lessons to be micro so that we're not dragging on too long because we're a micro learning platform here. And if you add a game template to that lesson, it's going to be extending the time more than adding one more interactive template. So you might consider holding off the game if you have a great idea for a game in one of those lessons, holding it off and putting it in its own review lesson towards the end of the week. So yeah, it's to be used at the end of a lesson to reinforce knowledge. Similarly, it's to use in review lessons. So a lot of people like to structure their micro lessons in the format where one lesson is put out per day, one short micro lesson, and they do this because it encourages a learning culture in that people don't just it's one day they have to go off and do their learning and get it out of the way. Instead, with Ed's micro learning format, people approach their lessons one per day, and you can easily configure settings in the LMS to make it so that people can only do one lesson per day. And because of this setup, you can actually say, okay, for the first 4 days of the week, the learners are covering these concepts. And then on the final day, what we're going to do is bring everything they've learned into one game template and just have them play that out and review it. And again, that's going to get them repeating those concepts, reminding of the things they learned earlier in the week, and reinforcing them in their heads. So when you see the game in progress, what it does, unlike interactive templates where you get a question, you answer left or right, you answer what you think it is, and then Ed has a pop-up that reinforces you and you pause to read that. In this, it's very quick. If you get an answer right, you get some bonus points, you get some time added. If you get an answer wrong, I'm getting more right, you lose points, as you can see in the top right there, and you lose some time. And of course, there's some sound that plays within the app. So what you get there is immediate reinforcement of correct and incorrect, and that's those key messages you want to get in there, because obviously we've gone in depth about our answers in these interactive templates when we had the chance to reinforce with those takeaways and really tying it down with the questions. But these are all about, again, just repeating those messages within the game. So now we should look at just how to configure the game, and then what I'm going to do is look at some other examples of the game templates available, some of the other ones that have already been configured. For example, the memory game we'll look at first of all. So looking at the true or false game, we're going to customize this. So when you're introducing your game in your lessons, what you want to make sure of is that the learner it's fully aware of what they're being tested on. So this is a good summary, this default description that appears within the game. It's a great way of letting them know the mechanics of the game, but it doesn't tell them what the actual topic's going to be, and they'll be going in a bit blind. So we'll say to them, and another thing we want to consider is to let the learner know how many points they need to earn all of the available stars. So down here we set the star award. So I like to be nice and generous with the stars available, because we want our learners to repeat this over and over. So if there's a lot of stars there, then they're going to be coming back to try and get these number of points. And as I've mentioned, we want them to be repeatedly playing. That's the objective of these games. So to encourage that, what we're going to do is say the learners earn 1 star at 1,000 points. They only have to get a couple of things correct to get the base level, but if they really want to max it out and to earn every available star, they have to work quite hard. They have to get a lot of correct answers in a row to get all these 15,000 points. And we're also going to leave the timer at 20 seconds. So something that a lot of people do is they make the games quite difficult. So something that I certainly did in the early days when I was learning how to do micro lessons is that I would say, okay, 10,000 points, 10 seconds, and if it was physically possible for me to earn that, then I would say, yeah, that's it, send it out, because I wanted the game to be as hard as possible to really encourage people to repeat the play over and over. But my poor learners who didn't have the in-depth knowledge of the game template like I did as someone who uses it every day and didn't personally write the lesson, they found it a lot more difficult than me to get their points, and they found it more frustrating than educational. So just keep in mind, you don't want to make these questions, or sorry, these games too difficult. Give your learners enough time to see the statements, to get an understanding, and for them to figure out whether it's right or wrong. But then control your difficulty by adding some points to the all stars cap. So making it so that once they figured it out, they do have to work a little bit, but we give them enough time to figure it out. So coming back up here to the description, we let the learner know that they need to earn 15 points. And that's the description configured. And then we'll just do a couple of statements again, just to show you how quick it is to get the game in action. And then we have just some statements here. Now, when you're configuring the game template, I do recommend having around 8 to 10 statements at the minimum, just because if the learner sees the same statements over and over, it's not as fun as when there's a variety on offer for them to learn. But in this example, I'm going to do all those statements. We can see here how the game template works. So that's that in action. And just before I start going through these other game templates that we have on offer and sort of drawing the webinar to a close, please think of any questions you might have for me. Perhaps there's a specific template you'd like me to look at, even if it's not related to gamification. I'd love to help, and I'd love to show off the tool. It's a fun thing to do. So we're first going to look at the memory template. That was what I mentioned previously. So each of these lessons are available to you in the demo login in the App Store. So what you can do is on the login screen, you can tap down below and see the demo content. And also you can take a lesson tutorial on how to use the content editor. And at the end, you will be able to import some of these courses if you are interested in checking them out and seeing how they work in the back end. So in this example, we're just pairing concepts together. So I'll show you the game in action. I'm sure we've all played memory before, and it's exactly the same concept in here. So we've got 8 cards, and we're trying to pair up some text and image. So here we're just bringing to the top of mind these key concepts to the learners, saying, well, we're actually talking about Ed here and talking about the benefits of microlearning. So again, it's not always about repeatedly getting a specific message across. Sometimes it's about just bringing back to top of mind, remember these key concepts, a reiteration in a fun educational format. So in this example, as you can see here, we can actually change between text or image used within the different cards. So this is a great template. Again, perhaps you don't have a lot of imagery to hand. Well, you can use this template along with true or false. Those are 2 templates that don't require imagery. But similarly, if you do, then that's great. You can use image, you can match image to image, text to text, and text to image that we've done here, and get your learners pairing up content as they go through. So we've also got the tap in order game. So in this game, you can think of it as again a boss version or a game version of the tap in order template. So if you ever find yourself just like you're in this lesson, perhaps you can start thinking as you become more advanced in the tool. When you see 4 concepts that you know are paired together, for example, 4 images, 4 pieces of text, you can think, okay, that would be really good to reinforce with the memory template. And in fact, some advanced instructional designers go straight from introducing content with knowledge transfer templates into reinforcing it with game templates. They don't use the interactive templates. Again, that's for you to decide on as you get more used to the tool. But again, you might start seeing things where you can go, okay, that would be great to be reinforced with a memory template. And similarly here, if you open up the relationships tab and you're using a tap and order template, deciding the learner has to identify which order the images go in. Here, the learner had to identify, or they were being reminded on the correct steps of approaching a lift. So we educated the learner in this health and safety scenario. Again, it's a compliance training thing, the correct steps for approaching a lift. And in the game, we have them tap and select the correct order. So they have to fill in the gaps in the image. And Ed progressively makes the game slightly harder by making more and more images go missing from the sequence. So that's the next in order game. And finally, we're going to look at the image word match game, which is it's my that's in the targeting game. So that's my next go-to template. Once I've used the true or false game in a lesson, then within the same course, I like to keep my templates nice and varied and my games nice and varied. So my next go-to is the image match template. So in this one, it's all about matching specific images with the text as the game suggests. As the name suggests. So we're all about. So the learner sees an image, the one we have over here, and they've got to select from the options available which one's available to them. And again, it's all about getting them top of mind. Okay, yes, I remember the platform was one of the. So within this lesson, we're looking at all the different ways that Spotify can target free users, or everything they know about free users. So their age, their gender, the genre of music they listen to, their location, the language they speak, etc. So this is what we were educating reps on, so that when they talk to advertisers, they can tell them just how detailed we can go in the advertising. And here, we've educated them on this throughout the lesson, and now we're just saying at the end, remember all the different things they can do, bring it top of mind, and over, it's coming into the top of their head. They're thinking, okay, yeah, sports activities, come on, what's next? Language, yeah. And every time they say that, every time they get those correct points, it's bringing it top of mind, and it's reiterating in their heads all these messages which we want embedded there. So again, that's the last game that I wanted to go over to display to you, to put on show. If you have any questions, please let me know. And even if that's after the webinar, what I'm going to do is I'll put my email address in the chat, and you can feel free to send me any questions you have. I'd be really happy to help. I love helping other people with their micro learning. It's a lot of fun using this tool, so I'm more than happy to come in and say help you out there. If you want a recording of this webinar, perhaps I went a bit fast. I'm a bit used to the tool, so I might skip some steps where people want me to slow down. Well, yeah, again, let me know. I'll be happy to help, and also provide you links to some of the previous webinars that we've got available hosted on YouTube. Similarly, I'm going to point you towards the Ed Academy, and this is where typically I write up articles on how to use Ed and different things. For example, I really recommend for including for using templates like the chat template and missing word template. I recommend checking out these articles because they offer you a variety of different uses for those templates that help you really spice up your micro lessons. So even when you're using a variety of templates, you can use different variants of those templates, and it really increases the versatility of the templates available to you. For example, if we look at the chat template article, it's not about just one use of the chat template. It's about all the different variants of the chat template that you can use in your lesson, how to use it in a role play template, how to use it as a multiple choice template, and how to use it as a way to identify different speech patterns, for example, or sales scripts. So unless there's anything you would like me to cover, I'm going to close out here. And I thank you very much for attending. And again, I look forward to hearing from you with any questions you may have. And thanks for attending, and I hope to hear from you soon.